Welcome to The Explainer. We're all about taking big, complex ideas and breaking them down into something you can really use.
All right, let's just jump right in. Have you ever been in a meeting, looked around, and thought to yourself, am I surrounded by idiots? That one colleague who is so slow, so obsessed with every tiny detail it drives you nuts? Or what about the complete opposite? The person who's so reckless and fast, they just leave a trail of mistakes in their wake.
Well, what if I told you the problem isn't that they're idiots? Not at all. The real idea here is that we're all running on different operating systems. Think of it like that. And if you can just figure out what system someone else is using, you could unlock way better communication. So here's the plan for today. First, we'll look at why we misunderstand each other in the first place. Then we'll get into this awesome four-color framework. We'll decode the behaviors, see how they mix and clash. I'll give you a practical playbook you can actually use, and we'll finish out by looking at why having all these different types is actually a huge strength.
Okay, so what's the fix for all this miscommunication? Well, it's a really simple but surprisingly powerful system. It's your key to decoding human behavior. It's all based on something called the DISC model. Basically, it's a system that helps us see predictable patterns in how people act, communicate, and react. And it breaks down into four main types: dominance, which we'll call red; influence, that's our yellows; steadiness, the greens; and conscientiousness, our blues. Now, this is super important. This is not about cramming people into little boxes. I mean, look at this chart. Only about 5% of people are purely one color. A whopping 80% of us are a mix of two, and some are even a mix of three or more. So think of this as figuring out your main flavor, not your only one. Okay, so let's really get into it. It's time to meet the reds, the yellows, the greens, and the blues. First up, the reds. These are your dominant leaders. Just picture that classic, confident CEO, arms crossed, ready to get things done. They're all about action. Reds are all about results. They're super competitive, ambitious, and they want everything done like yesterday. They're very direct, very task-focused, which can sometimes come across as a little impatient or insensitive. But for them, it's nothing personal, it's just that the goal is everything. And here's the classic trade-off with a red. Their biggest strength? They will absolutely obliterate any problem by just taking massive action. They get stuff done. The weakness, though? That same aggressive, hot-tempered drive can really stir things up and create conflict in a team. All right, next up, let's talk about the yellows. They are the social butterflies. You know the type. Picture a super enthusiastic motivational speaker, arms in the air, full of energy. They're the optimists, the visionaries. Yellows are just bursting with enthusiasm and optimism. They're talkative, they're social, they're full of creative ideas. They absolutely love being the center of attention. The flip side? All that energy and talking can mean they sometimes lack focus, and let's be honest, they're not always the best listeners. So their incredible strength is bringing people together. They can paint this amazing positive vision that gets everyone excited. But the weakness is that while they're up there with the big ideas, they can totally overlook the important little details down here on the ground. Okay, let's move on to the greens, and this is actually the most common type of personality out there. Think of them as the supportive helper, the calm, patient therapist reaching out. They are the ultimate team players. Greens are so calm and patient. They're incredibly loyal, supportive, and they are fantastic listeners. They prefer stability and will do just about anything to avoid conflict. They're really the glue that holds a team together. But that same desire for stability can make them pretty resistant to change. Yeah, their loyalty is their superpower. They provide that solid, stable foundation every team needs. But the flip side is that they can be really slow to get going on something new, and sometimes they're just overly resistant to change, even when it's necessary. And last but not least, we've got the blues. These are your analytical perfectionists. Just picture a quiet accountant or an engineer, totally focused. They are all about the details and getting things right. Blues live for details, precision, and logic. Everything is methodical, systematic. They have incredibly high standards for themselves and for others. Because they're so task-focused and often introverted, they can come across as a bit critical, and they can definitely get bogged down in the weeds sometimes. Their greatest strength? They will absolutely protect you from making costly mistakes because their analysis is so thorough. But the weakness? They can be a bit pessimistic, and that perfectionism can lead to what we call analysis paralysis, where they get so stuck in the details they can't make a decision. So now that we've met all four colors, this is where it gets really juicy. How do they actually interact with each other? Understanding this is the secret to figuring out why some people click and others, well, just don't. This little matrix right here, this is basically the Rosetta Stone for the whole system. It's simple. Look at the vertical axis. Up top, you've got your active, extroverted types, the reds and yellows. Down below, the more passive, introverted greens and blues. Then look at the horizontal axis. On the left, you've got the task-oriented folks, reds and blues. On the right, the relationship-oriented people, yellows and greens. And this grid immediately shows you where the sparks are gonna fly. The most common conflicts happen between the diagonals. You've got the assertive, get-it-done reds clashing with the conflict-averse, steady greens. The red wants a decision now, and the green feels totally overwhelmed. Then you have the talkative, optimistic yellows driving the detail-oriented, careful blues absolutely crazy. The yellows feel the blues are downers, and the blues just wish the yellows would stop talking and give them some facts.
So what do you do with all this? Well, the most important thing to remember is this. You're not going to change other people. You can't. The real power comes from adapting your approach. It's about learning to speak their language. So here's your communication playbook. Okay, talking to a red. Rule number 1, get straight to the point. No small talk. Just focus on results and what needs to happen next. Project confidence. You want to motivate them? Easy. Turn it into a competition. Give them a tough challenge and watch them go. Now for a yellow. You got to bring the positive energy. Be playful. Ask them how they're feeling. Keep the conversation focused on big ideas and the future. And make sure you acknowledge their creativity. To get them fired up, paint an exciting picture of what you're trying to build and tell them about all the fun people they'll get to work with. When you're talking to a green, slow down. Don't rush them. Keep a calm, relaxed vibe. And whatever you do, never, ever force them into a quick decision. Ask them if they're comfortable with a plan. The best way to motivate them is to give them a clear step-by-step guide and reassure them that you'll take responsibility if something goes wrong. And finally, how to talk to a blue. Simple. Bring facts. Be as detailed and precise as you possibly can. This is about data, not feelings. Don't ask a bunch of personal questions unless they bring it up first. And most importantly, give them time to think and analyze. To motivate them, give them solid data and let them know that you're counting on them to produce top-quality work. So let's zoom out and put it all together. Look, the point of all this isn't to just slap labels on people. It's about appreciating that every single color brings a unique and totally essential strength to the team. Because when it comes right down to it, the best teams in the world are a mix of all four colors. When you learn how to make them work together, you create something way more powerful than any one color could ever be on its own. Here's an easy way to remember why you need everyone. Just think of the word PAX. You need the P for the precise blues, A for the action-oriented reds, C for the charming yellows, and S for the supportive greens. You need the whole pack to succeed. So think about it for a second. Now that you've seen the colors, what's your primary one? And the next time you find yourself getting frustrated with someone, just pause. Instead of seeing an idiot, try to see their color. Because once you understand the code, you can flip frustration into truly effective collaboration. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.